school, I was part of the marching band, and it was one of the great loves of my life. Now, our director, Mr. Van Devender, it should have been Van Devender, but that's not how he pronounced it. But Mr. Van Devender had this mantra that he liked to share with us. And it was so often said that it burned its way into the core of my being. He used to tell us, early is on time is late, late is dead. You see, there's always that challenge when you've got a group of 120 kids that when the buses are ready to go, there's one kid with a mellophone who's not there. And so he burned that into our brains. Early is on time is late, late is dead. And so now I'm still one of these people who, if I have an appointment, I'm there 5 minutes early easily, maybe 15. Now, Jesus didn't play trumpet in the marching band. We know that from today's reading from the gospel. Because Lazarus was sick, and Mary and Martha sent word to him, please come, your friend is sick, and you can do something about it. And so Jesus said, I'll get to it. And he stayed a couple extra days where he was teaching and preaching and healing people and doing all that stuff that Jesus does. And Lazarus got sicker and died. Early is on time. On time is late. Late is dead. And when he finally made his way to Bethany, the people were gathered shedding tears, their hearts breaking because this person that they loved was no more. Lazarus had already had his funeral, and Jesus was late for that too. So when he showed up, Martha met him on the road. And the scripture says that she said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. I suspect that that's the edited version of what she had to say to him. No doubt it carried some frustration. Not just those kind churchy words that we like to use, but there was probably some finger wagging involved and tears. Jesus, if you had been here, my brother, your friend, would still be alive. I don't think any of us are comfortable when scolded, and I'm sure Jesus wasn't either. Because his answer to Martha that morning was, well, he mansplained. As he told her, your brother will rise again. And she began to explain how she understood this, that at the time of the resurrection, when everybody came back to life, that she knew that Lazarus, and he said, no. Actually, he should have at least let her finish. But he said, no, he's going to live again now. For I am the resurrection and the life. And he called everybody together. They went to the tomb where Lazarus had been for 4 days. Jesus had them roll the stone away. And then he called out, Lazarus, come out. And that's what happened. as Lazarus came out of the tomb, still wrapped in his grave clothes, his feet hobbled together, his hands bound down by his side, a piece of cloth over his face. And Jesus told those people gathered marveling, "Untie him and let him go." There's something about resurrection that makes us uncomfortable. We talk about new life and new hope, but when Lazarus came toppling out of the grave, you can be sure that there were people there who were worried about this. What's this mean, bringing somebody back from the dead? Who could do that? Is this really Lazarus, or is this some spirit that's taken over his body? Yeah, people were worried. They began talking amongst themselves about how can we deal with this? And then they went to talk to the religious leaders. There had been concern the whole time, of course, as Jesus had made his way along, as he had healed people, as he had restored sight to the blind, as he had given hearing back, as he had made the lame leap up and dance. But bringing somebody back from the dead, maybe that was too much. Of course, he'd done it before, but nobody knew that. Before that, every time Jesus had raised somebody from the dead, he had told people, "Be quiet. Don't tell anybody what you've seen." But this time in Bethany, on the outskirts of Jerusalem itself, too many people saw. The wheels were put into motion. The resistance grew firm. That's why Thomas had said, "Come, let us go and die with him." Knowing that wandering into Jerusalem at this point, going to the funeral of a loved one in plain sight of everybody was only going to have bad results. But still, Jesus went. It's that same echo that we find in the Hebrew scriptures from Ezekiel, where he finds himself in that valley of dry bones. And God calls him to speak a word of life into them, calling them back together and watching the sinews and flesh grow and finally the breath of God animating them again. I don't know about you, but I find that in my own life I've got some dead spots. Some places that once were alive, that once were full of joy, that are now full of trouble and sorrow and pain. Places where death seems to be the way of the Spirit. We all have those. And they're different things for all of us. For some of us, it's broken relationships, where we find ourselves lamenting what is gone. For others, it's professional woes. For others, it's political. For others, it's the question of how do I face my own death, my own illness? How do I face the loss of a friend? We all carry those dead spots within us. But you know, Jesus calls to each of us by name, calling us from those tombs where we have been lying, offering us little resurrections in our lives. Come out. Experience the gift of life. Open your spirit to my presence. Find new hope. Find new ways of being. Find new courage and new strength. Rise up and experience the gift of grace. But you know, the story of Lazarus doesn't just end with that rising up and coming out of the tomb. There's a second command where Jesus tells those gathered, unbind him and let him go. I can just imagine the scene of Lazarus had come out of the tomb with his hands and his feet bound, with the cloth over his face, and no one had helped. If he'd been stuck there, unable to move, other than just little steps, the community had to step forward too, to help Lazarus in being set free, to unbind him. And we need that too. That's the gift that we find on Sunday morning when we gather in this place. That even as God gives us grace and new life, it's the community that unbinds us, that helps us take those steps forward in the life that God has given us. So we have a couple weeks between now and Easter. We're taking some little steps. We're trying to live into the fullness of new life and resurrection, but we're still in this season of penitential reflection. But perhaps like Lazarus, we hear just coming faintly from the mouth of our own little cave, Jesus calling us, rise up and come forth. Let us then take those steps together as God's people moving forward in grace and in truth. Amen.